So we're going to talk about something that is really a fascinating topic because are there many folks that are from life sciences in the audience? Okay, great. So a few of these things will be really kind of near and dear to you as well. And really where AR and AI can really start to empower folks is based on what's happening in the actual life science market itself. You know, there are really big core trends that are changing in this marketplace, and we're going from small molecule drugs to now biologics. And the analogy we like to give is that manufacturing a small molecule drug, and for those of you that are not in life sciences, think of it like an over-the-counter pill. So a pill that you take when you get sick and you have a cold, that's what small molecule drugs are. They're based on chemistry, and really to manufacture, it's like putting together a complex bicycle. What biologics now is, think of now the cancer therapeutics that you've been hearing about and a lot of the sophisticated drugs that are coming to market. These things are really hard to manufacture. The analogy that we like to give, it's like making a private jet. But beyond that is what's happening now is in personalized medicine where each of every one of us in this room would have a different drug made for each and everything that each individual person in the room. And the complexity there is like making the International Space Station. You know, it's a really, really challenging process. And so when you have a market that is working in higher complexity now, the humans in this space are required to do things that they've never done before. And so for the human workforce in this world, they're required to execute uniformly, reliably, with data integrity and regulatory compliance every time. So as you can imagine, we have a much more complex process now, and there's more required of the humans. And so when they're trying to manufacture these types of drugs, it's a really big challenge, I should say, for workforces around the world. And these workforces, they're very unique because they have to be skilled labor. You know, these are people that are highly trained, highly educated workers that are trying to manufacture these drugs. And the current solutions that exist, though, really don't match how the industry is starting to manufacture these new molecules. And so the solutions that exist today in either paper, which still is 80% of this market, or the existing software solutions that are kind of the classic solutions you think of in this space that are more desktop driven, you know, that are built 2 decades ago in some instances, they've really led to a lot of different problems in this industry. They've led to issues with data integrity, lost batches, really some big problems that have all come up through the fact that solutions in this space just really are just incredibly cumbersome and inflexible. And that's amazing from our perspective because that really creates a lot of opportunity to use AR and AI to meet the challenges in this regulated industry. Because even though it's complex, even though there's a lot of requirements for the humans, you still have to manufacture in a regulated space, which adds a completely different layer of complexity in all of it. And so there's a lot of opportunity where AR and AI can really empower the workforces of the future. But even before you get to all the cool stuff that AR and AI can do, there's some basic requirements that this space requires. So first off, of course, regulatory compliance. You know, if you're starting to think about how can I empower my life science teams to actually use AR and AI, you have to look at it through the lens of compliance because at the heart of all this software is Part 11 and other types of standards that are just required as you're actually manufacturing this in GMP environments. In addition to that, clean rooms are also a really big deal. You know, a lot of the devices we see out there are not very well suited and adapted to be used in a clean room environment. And so you really have to take a lot of these things into account. And then beyond all of that, the solution that you leverage with AR and AI has to really be tailored to a lot of the specific nuances of how bioprocessing works, how personalized medicine gets developed, and a lot of the challenges from R&D all the way through process development, all the way throughout into commercialization. So we at Apprentice, we started the company back in 2014. So we've been doing AR and AI in this space for over 5 years, specifically and only for life sciences. And we've created a system that's built at its core with intelligence and spatial computing in mind. But most importantly, we built it so that it is regulatory compliant and complies with all of the necessary compliance standards for the FDA, as well as quality teams, as well as all of the validation that is needed for GMP use. And so when you combine that with our global collaboration, you create a really powerful holistic system that can be truly deployed in these environments. And that's really where we start to see this industry evolving, because ultimately, in order to meet the challenges of the new ways of manufacturing, the solutions that AR and AI can provide really can drive at the core components and mechanisms that are geared towards how biologics are produced and how personalized medicine is produced. But it really took a lot of energy to be able to create an emerging tech system that is also wholly regulatory compliant. And so how we deliver all of this is we deliver it through a different number of modes I should say, form factors, but we really focus on hands-free. We are device agnostic, and we really do love tablets and mobile devices, as well as external devices that can be used to interact with equipment. But at the end of the day, when you're working in one of these facilities and you're in a grade C, D, and E environment, and for those of you that are not in life sciences, what this means is these individuals working in this space wear a head-to-toe gown. So imagine Breaking Bad, but not making drugs like that types of drugs, the other kinds of drugs, but a head-to-toe gown, sometimes 3 layers of gowning, and they're interacting with very complex pieces of equipment. And so being able to interact with that equipment, be able to capture process data, be able to go through all of that, and be able to work on your core component, being hands-free is a really big value add. So we are totally device agnostic, but we have a focus on hands-free because it does provide a lot of value in that space. And so when it comes to hands-free, we really do like what RealWear, which is over in the exhibit area, has produced, because it provides an incredible way to interact with this technology hands-free, using voice, have real-time feedback. But more importantly, we actually adapted that device to work in a clean room. So we've actually made custom configurations to the device in order to be deployed into a clean room, because the head strap is shedding. So if there are folks in life sciences that have taken a look at the HMT in the past and said, how do I use this in a clean room? We've had to adapt the device specifically to work in these environments, which is why, again, having our focus on this space, we believe at least, has been really powerful. And so now when you'd actually dig into how this can unlock value in these organizations, we really start at the core process. So if you were to look at your drug manufacturing, your process, your commercial, clinical, or R&D workflows, at the core of all of it is the procedure. And that procedure can be a procedure or a batch record or any other type of document that an individual needs to follow. So what we did is we built a regulatory compliant solution that has capabilities so that as you're going through your process, you can have what you need to work on, so your actual procedure. You can view technique demonstrations, so you're actually able to capture a bunch of technique data as you're going through your process. This is a big deal in our world because technique is such a critical component of life sciences, because for those of you that aren't in the space, if your procedure said shake flask, you could interpret that as saying, oh, I want to shake the flask like this, but in reality, you actually have to turn the flask upside down to let the air shake the solution. So it really is important to include technique content in your procedures beyond just the actual process data, because if you want to increase the level of understanding as individuals are executing their task, this is a really powerful way to improve and upskill the capabilities of those individuals. But more important than that, though, as you're going through your procedure and your process, you have to capture a lot of data. this is a regulated industry. You're capturing a lot of information, everything from your critical process parameters just to different values that are coming off of your instrumentation. And so being able to do all of that through AR and AI in a regulatory framework is something that life science teams can really use to drive value in batch processing, in R&D, all the way through to even packaging, frankly. Because even in packaging, you're doing things like changeover and line clearance and line inspection. And there's a lot of cool things that you can do here with this tech, where even if you didn't want to go as far as batch processing, you could also use it in non-GMP areas as well. But at its core, it's really built to be used in a GMP setting. And so that's a big thing that we've taken time in doing, which is we ensure that you can execute your process, but you do it in the framework and the context of what life science demands. Because you can't just take different solutions that are just made for like work instructions or small components. If you're a life science organization, you have to really think holistically about how this technology can be deployed successfully. And so within that framework, we've built a solution out that is really tailored to this space, and we've been pretty successful with it thus far. In addition to that, you've probably seen in other presentations how you can use Telepresence successfully in different types of environments. We've taken a spin on this and made this entirely regulatory compliant as well. So being able to use Telepresence in GMP settings, in clean rooms, so that folks that are actually working in the space can collaborate with subject matter experts, with QA, with process engineering, with vendors around the world. And so combining the augmented procedures with the global collaboration, you can create a really powerful and enhanced process flow that goes well beyond what exists today. Because as it goes today, if you have an issue with a piece of equipment, you have a question about your process, what normally happens is somebody gets on a radio, or they leave suite, they get on their phone and try to give somebody a call, and instead, now they can see exactly what's happening in suite, in real time, and have it be fully regulatory compliant as you're going through the process, and be able to add in tools and capabilities to layer in augmented reality to increase the level of understanding of the process that you're ultimately working on. Because frankly, the processes in this world are very hard and challenging. And so when you can use a tool like this so that you don't have to explain over the phone, what it is you're doing, it really provides a lot of powerful value for organizations. And it's traditionally where we see a lot of the initial projects getting started. Ultimately, though, they do end up getting back to augmented procedures, and it's a key area in which we focused on and where our customers are. But it is something that we've seen a lot of usage in over the years. And so this is a case study from one of our customers that is now using this in day-to-day bioprocessing. So they are doing single-use processing, which for those of you guys that don't know, in life sciences, drugs are actually made in really expensive plastic bags. This really is an incredible market, and going through that process is very manual, it's labor intensive, and it's a lot of intricate detail that individuals need to be aware of as they're actually going through. And not only is it a lot of intricacy, but there's a lot of documentation that has to happen as they're actually going through the setup and interaction of that single-use bioreactor. The actual drug itself, there's a whole process beyond just the bioreactor. The bioreactor is just one component, but for our customer that was using this in their cell culture group, they're having a lot of issues around the setup and maintenance and interaction of the single-use bioreactor. So they started to use our solution to go through their process, view technique demonstrations, and then capture all of the data that they needed as they were going through their process, and then had that real-time feedback to them so that they can correct and prevent process deviations before they come up. So it completely changes the way in which folks start to go through bioprocessing, because instead of using a 60-page procedure that's written out in Microsoft Word, you can instead take that content and then execute on it very quickly, and then layer in some really powerful capabilities with the AR, which is providing technique demonstrations, and then the AI, which we're using computer vision and AI to capture a lot of the data as they're going through their process, and then verifying that data in real time. So if you're trying to prevent and reduce process deviations in your organization, this is another key way where as someone is going through their process, they're getting real-time feedback on what it is they're actually doing. And so when you combine it all and then throw in the collaboration component of being able to interact with quality, being able to interact with vendors, for them, it really increased a high level of ROI in terms of how their workforce was interacting with their equipment, in addition to how their workforce was actually documenting and capturing data. Because we've heard from our customers loud and clear that in order to get value from AR, it's not just the display of content. I think when folks initially think of AR, they think about displaying a cool 3D model and showing, a kind of training demonstration on how to do it. But we believe that that's just one component of the process, that you have to combine that with really rich data capture, which is where the AI, at least for us, comes into play. And so we're using a lot of AI on how we're capturing data through the day-to-day process, and then combining that with the actual batch record or procedure to truly unlock value in these organizations. Because ultimately, we believe that the future of this industry is all around personalized medicine and other types of more sophisticated molecules. And so for us, we believe that in order to unlock and manufacture these new types of drugs where there's a drug produced for each of us, so that ultimately we have a much more tailored and effective medicine that is needed for whatever we're treating, we feel very strongly that AR and AI are going to be the underlying components of how this processing will happen in the future. And so we're really excited about it. Like I said, we've been in this industry now for 5 years. This is, I think, our 5th AWE. And we're ultimately super excited about where this industry is going. And if you'd like to learn more about this, we have a booth over in the exhibitor hall, and we'd be happy to show you guys what we're working on. So with that, any questions, especially for my folks that I know work in life sciences? Any questions? All right, well, great. Well, if you'd love to learn more, and we can go into much more detail about your process, please stop by our booth. Our team is quite friendly, so please stop by and learn a little bit more about how this technology is really unlocking a lot of value in complex processes. So love to learn more, and thank you guys for attending today. Hope you have a great rest of the show.